in all units that need it. It is also important for tenants at all HATC properties to have copies of their leases, a clear process for recertifications, and that accessibility issues are addressed. Tenants deserve better and are counting on you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go next person.
The next individual is Miss Bryn Bradford from Boston.
Hi everyone, my name is Bryn Bradford. I'm an organizer with Basta. I am reading this on behalf of a tenant from Eastern Oaks who cannot be here in person. My name is Roy Soreo. I live at 95 New Hills Court, Unit 25. I have lived here for 6 or more years. I wrote this statement because I'm tired of being lied to by the management company. When we were told that the property was getting renovated, I asked management what to do about my washer and dryer in my unit. They told me, do not worry. I could leave it there and it would be there when I got back. When they moved us to Alexander Oaks, we were put in units with built-in washer and dryers. These units were nicer than my apartment at Eastern Oaks. When we got back to Eastern Oaks, my washer and dryer were gone. They told them out of all of the apartments and they took them out of all the apartments and did not replace them like they said they would. When I asked about my washer and dryer, Carlton said that I had left mine behind and it was gone. They told me to use the laundry room right next to the office. This was my private property and it was stolen from me. I am older and live with multiple disabilities. My shortness of breath is so severe that I cannot walk very far. There is no way for me to get to the laundry room. I want a washer and dryer in my unit like I was told that I would have, and like I had at Alexander Oaks. Last week, the sidewalk was turned up in front of my house without any notice. With my mobility issues, I was not able to use my walker to get out of my house. Also, right now, the 2 street lights closest to my apartment have gone out, and I can't see anything at night. This is a safety issue, both for me physically and for the security of my house. I want the lights around my apartments to work and the sidewalk to be fixed so that I can get in and out of my apartment. I'm asking you to please fix these things and to replace the washer and dryer that Carlton got rid of.
Thank you.
Next. The next individual is Ms. Gabby Garcia from Boston.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Gabby Garcia. I'm an organizer with Basta, and we have been working with the tenants at various HATC properties for the past several months. I'm here to relay some issues that tenants at Alexander Oaks wanted to inform the board about. First of all, Jeanette Sanders shared her frustrations about management disorganization and lack of communication. She has lived there for 11 years in Unit 6101B. A few months ago, her rent was increased without her knowledge because she was not given a lease to re-sign and she was not given recertification paperwork. She's now being asked to pay back rent of $2,000 for an increase that she was not made aware of. To complicate things, the portal stopped working at some point, further delaying rent payment, and she and other tenants didn't feel comfortable leaving the rent in the Dropbox due to having prior experiences of payments disappearing from there. She told us that the portal is now working, but when she tries to pay through there, she's being asked to pay the full amount, which she has not yet been able to sort out with staff, who only tells her that she needs to pay it back. So she's asking that she not be penalized for accounting and communication errors that were made by Carlton or their predecessors. The second tenant that wanted us to speak to you is Angie Loeda. She's lived there for about 2 years in Unit 6109B. She and several of her neighbors told us that they do not have copies of their current leases. When it was time to renew, management came to her apartment, had her sign paperwork, and then walked out without giving her a copy. She has requested a copy several times and has not received it. Recently, a new manager started and let her know that she had a balance of $40 from months ago. She's never received any notices about this supposed balance, and so the manager is telling her that she needs to prove that she doesn't owe it and has asked her to go to the bank and get a statement. Angie's disabled. She uses a wheelchair and a walker to get around, and understandably does not want to make that trip to the bank to prove that she doesn't owe this money. She would like management to look into it and to clear it. And she's also asking to be provided with accommodations for her disability, to not waste time. I'll send those to you. Overall, the conditions at Alexander Oaks are a lot better than other places we've seen, but there are a lot of significant communication issues, and tenants shouldn't have to pay the price for mistakes that are made by staff. Finally, I wanted to address the unannounced meeting for last Thursday. There was no indication that the meeting was moved on the website. I called several HATC staff. I left messages, emails. Nobody ever called me back. We came just to not miss it and found the doors closed. And I'm mentioning this not because it was an inconvenience for Boston staff, which it was, but because these are public meetings, they're open to tenants. And if, like, the man who we read the testimony, he had been planning on coming, right? And if tenants are taking time out of their day, trying to come all the way over here, and then they come and it's closed, that's not right. And in the same thread, I know that you all have the flexibility to decide who you're gonna, like, which meeting you're gonna have, but again, like, the tenant that's here today had to cancel appointments that she had for later because this meeting was moved without announcement.
All right.
Thank you for your
you.
time.
And the last individual is Christina V. This is a resident of Alexander Oaks.
Hello, good morning. Hello, my name is Christina Villarreal, and I live in Alexander Oaks in Unit 6101A. I was really excited to move into this place as I had spent many years seeking out the property and trying to get into Alexander Oaks in particular for the sole reason that it was within walking distance from my kids' schools. Also, changing schools was not an option for me because my daughter is a victim of trauma and everything has to be consistent for her. She has counselors and staff and therapists that work with her on a daily basis at school, which is why it's important to have things consistent. March of 2021 is when I'd started the application process with Carlos, only to find out that years later, my application had never been submitted. I finally got a hold of Ben at Carlton Company, and he helped me fix this mistake. My family and I finally got into the unit in April, just 3 weeks ago, but we have not yet slept there or brought any of our belongings inside the house due to a severe roach infestation. I have seen roaches coming from the walls, underneath the countertops, and inside the cabinets, drawers, and as well as on the floor. It appears as though there is a nest inside the dishwasher and probably inside the stove, because I've seen them coming out in and on the stove, behind the stove, behind the refrigerator, and I have found, as well as inside the cabinets and the crevices. I've tried to address this issue myself by setting off 3 roach bombs, spraying gallons of pesticide and other chemicals, but I just cannot get rid of them. The infestation has caused my anxiety to spike, which is a danger to my health since I've recently been diagnosed with congestive heart failure. My doctors have told me that I cannot experience any additional stress. Just a couple days ago, I almost had to take myself to the ER because I was experiencing numbing arms and swollen feet and ankles, and it hurt to walk, and I was lightheaded. I reached out to the office about the roach issues, and they have not been addressed. I need this living situation to work for my family and I so that we are not displaced again. I want the opportunity to work with the office to get an exterminator out to my unit as soon as possible. And due to the roach contamination in the appliances, I would also like to ask that all the appliances be replaced new. If not, then allow me to work with Carlton Company to find used appliances that are pest-free. My family and I deserve to live in a safe, sanitary home that is not hazardous to our health. I would like to ask that Carlton management also help me adjust my income and rent because it has changed. My income has changed due to my recent diagnosis. I have asked several people for help with this, and I still don't have clear guidance on what to do. Please, can you help me? Because my kids and I have been living and sleeping on the same bed since 2018, and we're just this close to having our own rooms, and it's important to us. They don't even want to be in there. They're traumatized by the roaches, and it's hazardous to our health. They carry Lyme disease. So if you can please help me resolve this issue, I'd really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I'd say one thing, the young lady who's speaking, we just wait for a few minutes, Mr. Guzman is gonna speak with you, okay? About your situation, if you like.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, on to item number 3, the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from the March 7th, 2024 meeting, 2024 regular meeting. So I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to item number 4, letter A, resolution number HATC -2024-08 to approve the selection of a general contractor for the Carson Creek renovation project.
Okay, so, I'll just do a prelude. So, as you all know, we had put out a solicitation, and based on you all's feedback and input, we, expanded, revised, enhanced the scope of work, and what you'll find, based on Carlos's synopsis of, the process, is that we believe that, it was thorough, comprehensive, and appropriate for what we will be asking you all to approve today. I think, did you get those last night?
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, Carlos sent them out last night.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll have, Carlos, what would we like this to pull up?
What's that?
Would you like to pull that up?
Yeah.
What he sent last.
What do you have to add that's different from what you sent last night and today?
There's no difference in between both of what was sent last night as well as what you're seeing right now in front of you.
You want something to highlight?
No, not really. I mean, we can talk a little bit. I mean, we believe the process again. We issued a subsequent solicitation. We did have the same, selection of bidders. We spent an inordinate amount of time being very detailed about the process. And, I think it was as thorough as anything I've participated in. And, check references. Again, the architect that we have on board has been doing tax credit projects around the state for the last 30 years. It's very thorough, and we all came to the same conclusion, and we even asked subsequent questions when there was not clarity. So we feel very confident about what we're presenting today, and hopefully you all do as well. So you don't have to go into any other detail if you so aren't inclined to do so.
all right.
You ready for a motion?
I don't know, Cheryl, do you have any
Or have any questions?
questions about it?
Yeah, I'm good. Is there,
Do I have a motion to approve resolution?
Also move.
All those in favor, or no?
I second.
Would you say the name of the contractor?
Yeah.
All, okay. You offer the motion.
The name of the contractor is Innovations Kitchen and Bath LLC.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Number 5, discussion item, Carson Creek update. Carlos.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, board members. So out of the 86 work orders that were submitted from January through April, maintenance has addressed all of them, including those that BASA reported, with the exception of those that will be addressed during the renovations as shown on Exhibit 1. And with one particular unit, 1410A, she has deferred any work until renovations commence. Additional, any of the general contractors, the actual general contractor on retainer has addressed all the immediate repairs found on the original inspection report as shown on Exhibit B. Lastly, on April 15th, a compliance specialist from Monitoring Data Service Inc., MDSI, visited Carson Creek and performed a property inspection of both the exterior as well as the interior and randomly selecting units. resulting in no findings of not compliance. Staff will continue their outreach efforts and address any immediate needs or concerns from the residents.
Okay, questions? Okay, thank you, Carlos.
So I do have one question.
Yeah.
When does the renovation projects from Innovation Kitchen
What's
and
the
Bath,
start
when does
date?
it start?
They are soon to start as soon as we approve one. They wanna order all of the items all at once, which will take about a month or so. Now with relocation happening as well, it will take roughly about the same time. We're gonna have them work together so that we can get all the residents out at the same time, having all the materials completed. They expect to complete this within 90 days.
What's the relocation company that you're working with?
CVR.
What's the timetable on that, on their getting everybody out?
It will take about a month or so. Them finding somebody, some of the units they're looking within their apartment complexes that they work with to see if there's any availability there. If not, they'll be looking elsewhere, but also because of movers as well as storage facilities that will be required, it will take some time in order to get all of it done.
And
But
this is separate and apart from your contractor bid.
yes, but it will all be combined all with the general contractor's bid.
Okay, so the 1.507 reflects the relocation.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Actually, no. What he's saying is 1.507, which is their number, and then there's 1579. It should be on the subsequent page.
On the
Subsequent page on
yeah,
second.
on the fiscal impact, on the second page, that number right there will include both the,
1.587.
Yeah, 587.
So an additional 80,000.
yeah.
What's
That's
the
an estimate.
timetable of shortening that relocation?
Well, again, as you know, relocation is iffy as far as that part's concerned. We think 90 days would be the max amount of time. What he's talking about as it relates to the relocation is the timing of such would
Get
be
them
that
out.
we would be moving those individuals the week prior to the work being commencing. So when we say a month, we're talking about mobilization, acquiring the supplies and or relocating those residents, which for 15 units, because one of them's vacant, we think it'll take about a week to do that part. So after that, we're talking about potentially 90 days, at maximum. And there's a potential that it could be obviously shorter, but that's what we're looking at.
So how much time are you all allowing the tenants to be informed that this is gonna take place?
Right, so we selected a contract today. If you didn't select one, we might have needed to wait a little longer. So what we're doing right now is in the process, we have a draft letter in place to make sure that we make them aware of what's happened today and a rough estimate of the timeline, and then we'll be giving them weekly updates and hard copies of updates to the schedule in terms of where things are. So again, the draft letter should go out as early as tomorrow relative to what's transpired today with some rough estimate of the timeline associated with such, and that'll be, again, updated weekly.
And then one other question, how close is the relocation to Carlson Creek? Because
Well, we don't know yet because we've just engaged CVR, they've done some preliminary work. We obviously aren't we are gonna do our best to, follow the spirit of your Uniform Relocation Act, although it's not necessarily the case, it relates to all of those. But we are looking at properties in the general vicinity of the airport, and that's not far from Carson Creek. And there are a number of opportunities right in the general vicinity, so that's what we're hoping will work as far as that part's concerned.
And then is there, do we have like an alternate plan in place if for some reason the timing of this does not work for a tenant? Right, this
Right.
is just, because it's the month of May,
Correct.
right? If they have kids, they're graduating or in school or finishing finals or whatever the case may be, and the
Right.
timing may not be the optimal timing for that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, I'm not a relocation specialist. CVR has been doing work in the area. I mean, they do a lot of work with HACA, obviously we work with them on other projects. So each one will be a case by case as it relates to the resident and their specific needs. So we will be working with them individually to understand their specific situation as it relates to those things. So I don't want to give you a broad answer as it relates to what that means, but the short answer is yes. You know what I mean, as far as making sure that we make those accommodations appropriately. That may mean maybe the cost, you know, there may be an increase in that relative to what the situation might warrant. So this is, you know, roughly an estimate as it relates to what they've suggested to us the cost would be given the time frame. But obviously, if there's an extension of such, we would need to adjust that accordingly.
Communication is gonna be key.
Yes, and they're well,
keeping
very
them
versed in that.
informed. And, who else is helping you with that, communication?
Well, CVR, I mean, yes, Big works with us on components of that. I mean, it's very manageable, I mean, to say, with 15 units, you know, in terms of what we're looking at. So this is not outside of the scope of what their capacity will
I
handle.
understand that, but sometimes things can get bogged down in bureaucracy, and so I don't want that to happen. Let's just try to stay.
Sure,
on
well,
top.
there is the management that still has a responsibility for the residents, so I mean, we don't wanna discount the fact that it's still their property management's responsibility to be engaged in that process, regardless of whether you have an outside source to assist with relocation. So that is our expectation, and we will be holding them accountable to do such.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll expect to hear from CVR next month.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. B, update on Board of Commissioners retreat.
Yes, so, as you all know, we've been trying to figure out a good time frame for the retreat. Based on the chair's input, we will shorten the scope of what we were hoping to accomplish during the retreat, or at least try to condense the time frame and still achieve the outcomes that we had hoped for. So what we are trying to do now is to identify what looks more like a full day during the week for the folks that we have on board to help us with this process. And we are trying to nail that down. So what we will do with you all is, I think Michaela may have sent out some correspondence related to days in which you are likely available, most of the day, I should say. We'll make sure we include lunch, but we will we do believe that we can meet your intent with doing that, you know, working out something that will take at least, you know, probably 7, maybe 8 hours, but again, that includes lunch.
What date are you talking about?
Michaela, what
30th,
day did we say? We said the 24th, what? I
29th.
don't know. I'm sorry.
Yes, we said May 30th, 2024. We're talking about,
June the 7th.
June 7th, excuse me,
Yeah.
and June 14th. So the 7th is a lot of days, so.
So just send
4
it,
days.
so.
Yeah.
I think we sent it already, but we'll check again.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
check again, please.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
make sure we follow up.
Okay.
All right, that's great.
Yeah, your calendars fill up quickly, so you need to keep it.
Okay, item C, HATC's Moving to Work initiative and its impact on improving the HCV program participant experience.
Okay, so Ms. Brown, Commissioner Brown asked for us to provide some feedback, and this is in response to such. So with that, we can pull up, is that the first slide? No, Christina, do you want us to provide the language, or do you want to go straight to the?
I'm not sure what's in the presentation per se, but I mean, I have the documents that I drafted.
Okay. So in your packet was a summary of, you know, I'm gonna just go ahead and let Christina start.
Sure.
Figure out where we're at.
So in the essence of time, I just want to first ask, there's a lot of information in front of you. So I can do a very general overview of attachment B and attachment C, which is the inspection process and the flow chart. If that's
No
okay with you?
attachments, we didn't.
We don't have a package.
We don't have a packet.
Oh.
It must be onboardable.
No, it's
not
It's okay. You can just,
Give you a general overview.
it's a general overview.
I'll start while they're doing that,
Yeah.
so, since it's time. So, okay, So attachment B, when you do get it or you do find it, it goes through the inspection process. So you had some questions about what the inspection process and what it looks like through our projects in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So I want to identify that HUD requires 3 inspection processes. The initial inspection, which is when they first move in, they have to pass. A periodic inspection consistently, so that could be annual, biannual, or triannual, depending on what the housing authority decides. And the special inspection. The special inspection happens at any point requested by tenant or landlord, depending on what the circumstances are. Okay, so I wanted to make that clear first. I wanted to say just a general overview of what responsibility for each one of us. So the landlord's responsibility is to maintain the unit, right? Repair whatever the tenant's asking for, as long as it's not tenant caused. And then enforce the lease. That's the landlord's responsibility. The tenant's responsibility is to maintain the unit, fix any repairs that they do, right? Take responsibility for those, and then to allow the inspections to happen, to coordinate that with us. And then our responsibility is to ensure those inspections are done. However, we're outlined it right now. It's outlined triannually, and I'll go into that in just a second.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we heard from representatives today is that tenants are not receiving copies of their lease agreement.
So we don't have any part to the lease. We are not part of the lease. So when we talk about our role in voucher and
Moving
what
the
they
work.
do, we are not a part of the lease. That is with the landlord. That is the responsibility of the landlord and the tenant to reconcile. The only thing we need the lease for is to start the housing assistance payment and the contract. We do not have responsibility to the lease, and that is clear in all HUD documentation. As far as notification of inspection processes and things like that, we send out notices. Our inspector sends out notices well in advance, like at least 90 days in advance. So they know, hey, an inspection is coming, so we can cancel it, reschedule it, whatever the case may be. Does that answer? Okay, so our responsibility is to ensure that they're done, and then to educate tenants and landlords of what these processes are, what they mean, and what we're looking for in an inspection process. Hold on, I can get ahead of myself. And of course, we have to enforce the policy, not the lease. Enforce the policy, our policy.
So who's responsible for the lease? I'm sorry.
Tenant and landlord.
Tenant.
Yeah, these
Part of the lease.
are with vouchers. Yeah.
Right.
We're just housing assistants. You gotta remember, we're just house, so we're giving them a voucher to find something, they find somebody, they work with the landlord, they sign a lease, they have to abide by the terms of the lease, just like anybody
Okay,
else.
gotcha.
So in the same conversation, so if, for example, there's 2 things that can happen if a landlord doesn't comply with repairing those items, or a tenant doesn't comply with repairing their caused damages. A tenant can be terminated. We give them 30 days to fix the items, or an extension if they need it for whatever reason. Maybe there's holes in the wall, they need to get contractors for, I don't know, whatever the issue is. So we give extensions. If the landlord doesn't repair the issues, we stop payment. So it's called an abatement process. They have 30 days to repair the items or with an extension. And then if they don't, we stop the housing assistance charges. That's the 2 resolutions that we have as a housing authority, 2 roles that we have as a housing authority. I wanted to also mention there was some streamlining strategies that HUD came up with post-COVID. So COVID happened and a lot of stuff came out. The 3 things that they did streamline for us as PHAs, one is to be able to go to biannual inspections, which we adopted. But with MTW, we actually adopted a triannual for HCV, not COC. Continuum of care projects are inspected annually. I just wanted to make that clear. We also adopted the remote inspections. We can do remote inspections. So I will say, because I talked to my inspector about this, the only time that he practices the remote inspections is if it's an apartment complex and there's a maintenance person there that can video and test the electrical. He does not typically do an inspection virtual if it's a landlord who doesn't have the mechanics to be able to show that these things are working. And then we also adopted another streamline, which is allowing the tenants and the landlords to self-certify. So if the tenant's ready to go, they've walked the unit, the landlord's walked the unit, we've certified it's passed, they can certify if it's minor, and I wanna say it's 3 items, can't be more than 3 items, can't remember exactly. If there's less than 3 items, then they can self-certify and they're minor, that unit is ready to go. So, and then in that, once all that happens, they move in, they're ready to go, the tenant and the landlord have that choice to notify us if something isn't getting repaired. Now, they have to follow the terms of the lease, right? So if the lease says, hey, notify us through this number for a work order, they have to do that first and show us and let us know that they've identified what they need to do. The landlord is not, or refusing, or whatever the case may be, then we go out and do a special inspection. Okay? All right. And then I just wanted to mention, so some of the streamlining strategies that I mentioned, what HUD said that would achieve would be an increase in landlord retention. We do more inspections by doing, say, remote. We can do more inspections in a day. We don't have that travel time. We would promote tenant self-sufficiency and then cost effectiveness for the housing authority, which is part of our MTW initiative. Okay, so moving forward into this year, one of my plans is I'm trying to get together a resident advisory board. So I've already communicated with a few people to see if they're interested, and I'm going to be sending some invites to see who's interested, because we really want the input of tenants a little bit more in the voucher program than we currently have. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on, Victoria's working on doing a landlord meeting, which is an educational meeting towards the end, maybe end of year. And then we'll be able to invite our landlords over and go through all the regulations again. In addition to that, we're also working with materials to be able to send out. Okay, so that's the summary. Okay?
Yeah, if I could just say that the very attractive thing about applying for MTW, which we did and we received, and obviously of the nearly 4,000 housing authorities in the country, there's only 136, and we're one of those. The flexibilities that we're afforded gives us the ability to be responsive to what we hear and from the residents, and that's why the residents and advisory board will even be more critical as we think about continuing to evolve the program to make the resident experience even better than it is now. The whole notion of going to less inspections, which sounds less hands-on and less engaged, but the truth of the matter is that what we found is those that are happy with their units don't have to be burdened with the idea of having an inspection every year, and vice versa. But the ability, when there's a problem, is always there for you to say, my landlord's not doing what he's supposed to do, and vice versa with the landlord and the resident. So that doesn't go away, but the ability of saying, hey, I'm happy with my unit and I don't want you all coming over to do anything. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it's a good balance, and I think that what Christina is saying is that we are continually looking for opportunities to hear from the residents about, from the program participants about what we can do differently. And MTW does afford us that opportunity to relax requirements, to flex things, to make it more conducive to what is happening here in Travis County versus just the federal regulations that others, non-MTW agencies aren't afforded that opportunity.
Thank you. And lastly, since you had brought up the HQS question, I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an idea of where we are with MTW, what impacts they have had so far with the initiatives that we do have in place. So speaking about the inspections, so last year we started our triannual inspections in 2023. So we're not going to see the effects of that until 2026. But I did want to let you know we still completed 941 inspections in 2023, with 34 of those being special requests. So it does get utilized. Tenants do call their specialist and complain if something isn't getting done, and we do move forward and enforce what we need to. But on the other initiatives that I wanted to touch on, just to kind of give you an update, we have a damage claims initiative where we pay one time per tenant, the damage claims that they do, one time per tenant, and we have not had any yet, so no claims yet. Landlord incentives, we pay new landlords to come onto our program. We had 20 newly enrolled landlords in 2023, and in 2024 we already have 13. And when you get your packet, you'll see the costs associated with that and what that means. Then we did self-certification of assets, which means that tenants could self-certify up to $50,000 in assets instead of giving us the bank statements, us going through the process of verifying all these assets, which is cost effectiveness for both of us. So nobody exceeded the 50,000 asset limit. So everybody self-certified in 2023 and in 2024. And then the last initiative that we currently have in place is the ability for tenants to pay more. So right now, HUD caps it at 40%. A tenant cannot pay more than 40% of their monthly adjusted income. We have allowed tenants who request to go up to 60%, knowing that they're going to pay more, because that's one of the initiatives. So that offers them more opportunity to get maybe something a little bit better that wouldn't fall in their voucher, but they feel like they can afford to pay a little bit more. And so out of that, we've only had 3 tenants exercise that in the last 2023 year, and those tenants are still in their current unit, still paying that extra amount. So far positive, but we don't know the inspection quite yet and what that implication of the 3 years is going to be just yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think Wilmer has to leave in 4 minutes.
But we still have a quorum.
Do we?
Even if he leaves, yes.
We're still good?
We still
Yeah,
have
we
a quorum.
are, was there anything that, before Mr. Roberts leaves, that he wants us to
Yeah.
advance and cover?
I don't think there's any action item.
Okay, well,
No other action items.
okay,
Okay,
thank you all. I'm sorry I had to leave, but
no worries.
duty calls.
All right, sounds good. So I do want to go back to address a couple things. I think once before we had a presentation on voucher renewals. I think, was it Carlson Creek that was looking at, am I getting this confused?
Oh,
With
no.
something when they were looking at people that weren't sure whether or not.
That was Carlos's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Carlos. I mean, well, affordable housing, I should say. Yeah, it had to do with the leases, kind of what was being brought up about not sure where your lease, what the leases and in theory, what exact amount of rents were, that was the issue.
Okay,
But that was not inclusive.
okay, sorry about that.
No worries, and to give you a visual, HUD actually does promote on their HUD website the partnership that we have as a triangle, just to kind of give you a visual. Landlord, tenant, housing authority, right? We have a connection to the landlord, tenant has a connection to us, tenant has a connection to the landlord, right? As opposed to us having a direct connection to the leasing process, because that's out of our hands.
But on the side of affordable housing, that Carlos is managing, having the tenants get a copy of their lease agreement is something, what do we do to ensure that we know, based on our records, that they received this tenant agreement?
Typically, so what's done at time of recertification, once it's fully completed, a 5-9 signed, the lease agreement is signed. At that point, you can definitely give one of the tenants right there and then a copy of the lease. That's not an issue. What I think the issue is here is because Carlton is working on some of the recertifications that are not fully complete, because of course they still have to go through employers, they have to go through the assets, through the paperwork. They have two types of recertifications to complete. They have the PBRA as well as the tax credit paperwork that needs to be completed. It takes maybe about 2 to 3 hours for them to complete the paperwork with the tenant themselves, and then of course take it back, send it over to compliance, make sure that everything's working with the PBRA as well as with tax credit, that there's nothing that's missing from the tenant or so, before they can actually give a final approval, and then a lease can be given to the tenant. So it's a lengthy process. It takes some time, and I'm assuming that's probably where the line or where the communication is failing between the tenant as well as Carlton management, but that's something that I will be addressing with them.
Let me say this, I do think, I know it's come up on occasion in different, respects in terms of where we are. So I do believe it behooves us to next month have a full report about the entire research process and where we are with respect to leases. And even if folks have leases, we should probably just give them another copy. But we will make sure that we have a full-blown sort of deep dive about that specifically, because I do know that it comes up and you need clarity on what that looks like, just so that you know exactly what the situation is. So we can plan, if that's fine, Chair, we will put that on the agenda and talk specifically about that, ideally next month.
And then the last thing that I want to go back to is this whole issue with having washer and dryer. Were you aware of?
No, as far as for Eastern Oaks, no. Whenever I came in onto the HATC employed, renovations were already being completed. Residents were kind of moving in back. This was prior to me actually coming in. As far as I know, the connections.
Prior to you being hired by HATC, what do you mean by prior
Sorry.
to you coming in?
Prior to me being employed by HATC.
Okay.
This was something that was done in the past. When I came on board, renovations have already been completed. Tenants were already back into their units as well. What I knew was that connections were now being given to the tenants so that they can place their own washers and dryers. But additionally, we do have that laundry room that's there.
Yeah, let me speak to it. So Alexander is something that got rehabbed via low-income housing tax credits. That's not the case with Eastern. And so the funding wasn't as robust for Eastern because we got money from the city of Austin, and the the multifamily direct loan program from TDHCA. We committed, and the difference, and so let me just say what the difference is. We provided washers and dryers one time for the renovation at Alexander and Summit. However, in the case of Eastern, we were only committing to, and this is in the lease, to hookup, washer dryer hookups. The issue relative to someone having a washer and dryer and no longer having it because it was lost or discarded needs to be investigated. So that part I can't speak to because we would need to look into who those individuals who are asserting that happened, and we need to do something about it. But as it relates to the commitment to washers and dryers, no, it was a hookup at Eastern, which is dissimilar to what happens at Alexander and Summit. They had a washer and dryer placed in those because the housing tax credit allocation was robust enough for us to be able to do such. And that's the difference in terms of what one might see going as someone saying, oh, at Alexander I had a washer and dryer, now I only have a hookup at Eastern. That's the issue. Now, if the board elects to do something different and says we want to do something otherwise, you certainly can. But Eastern they were not afforded washers and dryers at Eastern, only the hookups.
Okay, so the tenants are responsible for providing a washer and dryer.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we're testifying is that they had a washer and dryer, they were like.
And then it was gone.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah,
said.
they were told that they
He doesn't
didn't
know,
need it.
yeah.
Right, and I said that we need to investigate the situation as to those who had washers and dryers, the assertion that they had washers and dryers and they disappeared or were taken away.
Yeah, I heard
We need,
your point
yes,
that you're gonna
okay, we
investigate
need to look
that.
into that, and we
Okay.
will.
Okay,
Okay,
But yes, that is correct. So,
okay, all right. Sorry to digress. Let's
No worries.
go on.
Okay, voucher programs. Christina?
I got one more thing before, just one more thing. One of the things that I find interesting is to hear Boston come in and say that a tenant has said X, Y, Z. Are you all receiving any complaints or
No.
any
And
messages or anything?
well, like what we've dealt with Carson Creek, right? We're getting different messages from tenants and different messages from Boston. When we talk to the residents, we're getting a completely different version of what was said. I'm not sure.
Is that filtered through Carlton, or are they directly communicating with you?
They're directly communicating with me.
Okay.
I go out there, knock on their doors, and speak to the tenants directly.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry, I'm done.
Okay, back to Christina.
Back to me. I don't know. Slide. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Where's my 30-day? Yeah. Yes. It looks different. Sorry, I'm trying to get used to it. You know, whenever I do these, I'm like far from this. Like I'm already accomplished most of the stuff. Oh yeah, we are continuing to, something great. I forgot. The HCB team, we're gonna do our first, since COVID, everything kind of like went different, right? So we're gonna do our first orientation, physical orientation with clients. We have about 20 already approved to sit in that orientation. So Victoria is handling that, and we'll be doing that on the 29th with the staff. I need to start the moving to our supplement, that whole process all over again. That needs to be published probably in August so we can approve it in October. So that's a leading process I gotta start, which also involves revision of that administrative plan. And I'm sorry, but the whole plan is gonna get revised, every single page. So there was a lot of language that came out in this last year from HUD that is requiring us to change this language. So a lot of it is required language, just like words here and there, that kind of stuff. But it has to happen. It's gonna be pretty goofy, 400-page document, so I'm kind of scared of it too. And then I'm also working to create that resident advisory board. That's on my agenda, hopefully by end of summer.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, affordable housing programs, Carlos.
Awesome. All right, so our main focus these next 30 days are going to be the Maynardtown 2 pre-lease up. We have a scheduled day to be on site on May 16th. We'll be there from 12 to 3 p.m. Also completing some of the remaining part of the final construction eastern deficiencies. This was part of something that was mentioned earlier with Basta. We do have a general contractor out there. He is working on those sidewalks as well as the parking lot themselves. So as soon as that finishes, that problem should be resolved. As far as the communication issue, where it lies, I'm not sure, so I'll have to investigate it a bit further. Although Tom, the general contractor there, is supplying the information over to the management team so that they can communicate with the tenants as far as when things are happening and when is the completion expected to be done. That way they're aware of what the problems are. Excuse me, sorry. And then the last one, we're also, of course, since the approval now, we're commencing the Carson Creek renovation project. So we'll let the tenants know what's going on. We'll let the general contractor be aware that he's been approved, as well as the relocation CBR specialist, so that we can commence this and start communication with them. A couple of things I do want to add. So we have hired now 2 permanent staff members. We do have the assistant manager as well as the leasing specialist there. We had someone intended to be hired for the manager position, although she did she refused the job offer. She went somewhere else. So we're still looking for a permanent manager there. Now that we do have these 2 staff members, we're going to establish business hours on the properties, and there will be someone on site to communicate directly with the tenants rather than having them call or email at all times as well. Occupancy as well as it has been increasing. Eastern Oaks last month was 63, now is at 70. Alexander was 78, now at 83. Maynardtown 94, now is at 97. We're trying to reach our 97% occupied goals, but we'll keep you updated with those as well.
Great. C, real estate development, Carlos, again.
Yeah. So as previously mentioned, construction is currently at 72.54% completed. The interior gypsum wallboard installation is substantially complete. All of the exterior paint is substantially completed as well. For the next 30 days, construction will focus on the interiors, mechanical and installation and the mechanical work of the project itself. So we'll see how, as far as there's no delays depending on the weather, hopefully for the most part, all of this will get done.
Okay.
And have we looked at tenants yet, the number of tenants that's looking to move from Maynardtown 1 to Maynardtown 2? Do we have a number?
We don't have a number on the scheduled date that will be
lottery,
on site on May 16th. At that time, we'll have an actual number of how many tenants are going to want to transfer to the other. Although for the most part, all of them are looking into, yeah.
But we
Was
were
there
saying
gonna be
that
a
the rent's
lottery?
gonna be.
Yes.
So there's gonna be a meeting, and if necessary, there will be a lottery.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the demand exceeds.
So, correct.
The supply. Okay. Okay. Anything else? No.
No.
Finance, Subra.
Yeah, Super's not here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, if you just show the bottom, like, right at the bottom. Okay, yeah, I don't know anything, that's fine. So, yeah, the reality of it is, the big things that we wanted me to underscore, outside of the finances specifically, is the audits. We are finalizing the audits for strategic, but also the housing authority. We got a second copy of that, and we're just going through and just making some final edits to that, and you all should get a copy of that. Either hard copy or it can send electronically, but they will be giving us hard copies of the budget. Things are on track. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have you defer to the actual document in the packet, because it's hard to read here, but we are on track budget-wise, I should say, and that's all I can really speak to specifically myself, as it relates to that. So, but I can entertain any specific questions, might be easier for me to do that.
I don't have anything specific, no.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Human Resources Organizational Development, HATC, Patrick.
Yeah, so we do have representatives from Big On, but I'm gonna just go ahead and brief. So we had a robust discussion. I think I told you all that was very much set on having a college tour. We are in the process of discussing the work plan for next year. Their contract was for 1 year and is due for being renewed, so I'm glad Steve's coming back next week, so we can have those discussions about what that looks like and try to revisit some of what we outlined, I should say, and what we look forward to. I think they need to be a little more outcome-based as it relates to what we've been discussing and what the needs are, to really focus on the 3 pillars: family enrichment, self-sufficiency, and youth development. I do believe we've had a number of activities, and you can see from there's been a ton of things that have been done. I think the participation is my concern, and how we move that forward. But I will share with you all that 2 years ago, we put in an application, or a year and a half, for a family self-sufficiency grant for a position, and we did get awarded that, and I should send you all a letter, I apologize. We are required to do a work plan for that that's due next month, so obviously it's subject to them accepting our work plan, but we did ask for a position. Now, what that means is it's a structured program that HUD funds a position for to help folks identify potential goals that they have, and they essentially help put them in motion. And when folks who elect to go participate in this program, they will graduate from the program at some point if it's 3 years. So case in point, if someone says, I want to be ready to purchase my own home. So that may mean, financial literacy, credit counseling, cleaning up their credit, expunging things from their, credit, so that and securing enough money for a down payment in order to be able to do such. So that may be 3 years. So once that is accomplished, then they would graduate from the program. Or if it's educational attainment. So they will work with individuals, select individuals who get outreach to or ask the question about what it is that they're interested in achieving over a period of time, and they go through this process. So it's a very, outside of the overall arching kind of things that we would be doing through the foundation, this specifically targets individuals with a specific plan that they want to see achieved, and they help them move forward in that process. So we're very excited about the options of having that. The agency had it years ago and kind of didn't do the right thing and got on the bad list. So we are now able to do that again. So, but again, as it relates to the, big, we will continue to work with them on, plans for going forward. We've not had a foundation meeting to date, and I think probably when we are fully operating as a board with all 5 members, we are going to be able, obviously, to have the ability, obviously, to have someone kind of step in that role. Sure. and talk about plans. But I know we're, we're down 2 people, but that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Item 7, board committee reports.
There are none.
No board committee reports. Okay, item 8, new and unfinished business, CEO employment contracts, performance measures. Patrick, I sent you an email individually about this. Yeah. It's in process. I had a conversation with Steve yesterday. I need to talk to both Cheryl and Wilmer, and then we're gonna look at the suggested edits, probably through a third party, and then have a proposal hopefully within the next, 60 days probably. And then Cheryl and I are going to work together to refine the performance evaluation so that it's more concise, and hopefully less complicated, just so commissioners know what they're doing when they get in there to evaluate. So that's all still in process too, around the same timeline for the contract. So I don't know, do you have anything else on that?
No.
Okay. Item B, update on March 26th,
Yeah,
2024.
I should like hold over from a previous meeting.
That just got
Yeah,
back
well,
on.
I should, well, I stand corrected. So at the meeting, the projects got approved and there was a request made by one of the commissioners to look at how we might shorten the term for affordability, which is something that we've been discussing with the county staff in terms of options. And so we're still going through that process.
Shorten the term for affordability.
So it's 75-year term, as you know.
Oh.
There's some belief that it should be shortened because that's a
For the
long
exemption.
time. Well, yes, the exemption, which in essence would be the affordability,
Right.
because obviously they can go hand in hand. So yes, that is right. So we're not getting, we're saying, again, issues relative to what can be financed and what that looks like. So we've had one meeting with the county attorney and staff about such, and we will continue to discuss that.
I think it would also be a good thing to communicate to them that we approved 53 units at 30% today.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No, sir.
Item 9, is there any need to go into executive session?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 10, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.